is live. theporchislive.com. That's where you should go anytime you want to get any info on just about anything. I don't know. So as you can see, welcome to the porch, the Sports Porch. I want to thank American Busker iHeartRadio. As always, if you're listening to us, iHeartRadio, 150, 250 million subscribers, something like that, 2,000 devices, 250 platforms. That guy down below me, that is Mark. That guy over on that side of me is Steve. I'm Chris. We're actually, I just got back actually from Florida for a week, and I'm not feeling too good. So we decided we just do a little remote porch this week. But welcome. We're so happy that you're here. We had a whole bunch of people watching. We got a lot of stuff we want to talk about. So real quick, before I dive into it, how are you guys doing? Say something. Say hello.
Well, I'm doing just fine, Chris. Thanks for asking.
You're welcome.
Chris, I'm a little worried about you. I think after last week's spot, I think I'm gunning for your job as technical director and host of the show. So keep your eyes covered because I'm coming for you.
I don't know what keep your eyes covered means, but you can have the job if you want.
Well, Chris has been a little bit off his game lately. I mean, as you can tell, he's wearing sunglasses on a baseball hat indoors. So you got issues there.
I'm the only guy on the porch tonight. What's up with that?
Baseball hat. He's wearing a baseball hat.
Hey, everybody wants to talk Steelers. Let's get into it.
Yeah, let's get into that real quick. First of all, Amy May wants to say hello. Janice says hello. Rhoda is watching and listening. And Bill says, good evening, everyone. Steelers are the best. I think we're going to have a little debate about that right now. So you're right. So, before we get into our picks and other NFL news and stuff, let's talk about the Steelers. That game was horrible. I'm just going to start right there. I think that game was horrible. Will you guys just take it away and I'll lead you down the path of righteousness.
Well, I don't think the game was horrible. I think the Steelers had a chance to win the game. I mean, in fact, they were actually winning the game at halftime. And they just decided that they were just going to let the Browns run all over them in the second half. So I don't think the whole game was horrible, but I do think that the Steelers have proven they are not an elite defense, unfortunately for us Steeler fans. And I think their offense continues to struggle under the guise of a Canada offense. And the Canadian offense is just terrible right now. And I don't care who you put in there, whether you think that, Kenny's the guy and he should come in and he's going to give a spark. I don't think anything will make a difference other than changing the offensive coordinator. And it's been done before. So you can clamor for Pickett, and I'm sure we'll get a lot of responses today on our comment board that will say that. But in my opinion, Joe, I just don't see that helping at all. Right now, the scheme is always going to be the same scheme. And I don't see that helping. So, no, I don't think the game was horrible. I think the team needs a lot of help. And fortunately for them, they've had 10 days to prepare for the New York Football Jets. So I think that's good news for the Steelers coming up. What say you, Mark?
Well, I think, unfortunately, the reality at this point in time is this just isn't a very good football team, just in totality. I think right now it's like a best case scenario, 500 football team, more leaning towards below 500. And I think that, the bottom line is when your team is like that, it basically means you obviously have some talent. There's some good players on the team, but it's lacking in an overall talent and depth. So when you lose a guy like, TJ Watt, your team becomes, you start going from, hey, maybe if everything goes right, we can be 10-7, 9-8 to, 9, 7, and 10. So everything hurts when you lose a really good player. The bottom line is that, there's some good receivers on the team. Running back is good, but the line just isn't that good. I mean, it doesn't matter that Mitch Trubisky isn't a great quarterback. The line's not allowing him to throw it downfield. The line's not opening up holes for Najee Harris. I mean, every good run he makes, he has to create on his own. And on the defense, just not enough. With Watt out there, it's not a team that's going to rack up sacks. With Watt out there, you could get 6 a game, because Watt's going to get you 2, and it's going to open up other guys. You got Minka mining the secondary. He's great. The other guys, they're okay, but you know what? They're a heck of a lot better when you got a pass rush, right? So, I just think they're kind of a middling team right now. And really what the discussion goes to next is, why not Pickett? What do you have to waste? What do you have to lose at this point? Other than, look, here's the thing. I was talking about this earlier in the week. The bottom line is most of the good quarterbacks in the league lose a lot their first year. Troy Aikman was 1-15. Now like Ben was like the, kind of like the anomaly where he was on a Super Bowl ready team that just needed a quarterback. But most of the guys, Burrow's first year would be like 3-13 or something like that. So most of these guys lose a lot in their first year, and it doesn't mean that they're not going to be better for it in the long run.
Let's get a few of these comments in here, because obviously opinions are all over the place right now, especially when you lose to Cleveland the way they lost. I mean, first of all, Tim Pomato from Palmetto. Hello from Hurricane Ivan Alley, Suncoast.
Stay safe down there.
Amy May is echoing my sentiments exactly. Canada must go. Joe says put in Pickett. Bill says fire Canada. Todd says, let's not act like Eagles fans, please. I'm begging you.
I think right now it would feel pretty nice to be an Eagles fan, wouldn't it?
You can always count on a response from an Eagles fan. I can give you that, Mark. Yo, Carey says Pickett would provide a spark of energy, win or lose. Turd Biscuit looked like a scarecrow of nothingness. I mean, look, there was a video on I don't know if it was TikTok or Instagram or somewhere. They showed how Trubisky, on a lot of the calls that Canada made, he missed wide open receivers. So the argument in that case could be made that this was, this was more on Trubisky than Canada's play calling. But we've seen this from Canada before. Okay. I mean, we all knew that, and we know that Trubisky isn't going to be. I think before they drafted Pickett, the hope was that Trubisky could be, at least an intermediate term solution, and they could win with Trubisky. Now, then they draft Pickett, and you start this firestorm. And what this tells me is that this team really didn't have a plan for moving on from a Hall of Fame quarterback. And I'm not saying I would have had a better plan, because I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have. But, it's kind of like you've got this firestorm going on whose fault is it? Is it the play calling? Is it the quarterback play? Is it the offensive line? Is it, the team in general? Is it what is it? Is it the defense? Because, oh my God, without TJ Watt, they're not elite. I mean, I think I said this last week. There's 11 or 10 other players on the field. Okay. And a couple of them are pretty good. So, to assume that without TJ Watt, you can't win, that's a psychological thing. There's plenty of teams that don't have a TJ Watt that win. So, or that have a good defense. So, I think it's an organizational thing. It's an organization that's in transition. And so to assume that they're going to win when they're in transition, and as both Mark and I know, is not being an original Steelers fan. Mark is an Eagles fan. I grew up a Redskins fan. You go through transitions. They last a long time. And the problem with Pittsburgh, the problem with Steelers fans today is that it's been 15 years of winning. And you can't remember even Steve it's hard pressed for Steve to remember when it was like, oh God, this is just going to be a washed up year for us because, but that's what this year is going to end up being, so should they put Kenny Pickett in? I don't know. I mean, yeah, I'm a Pickett groupie. I think he's got all the tools to be a great NFL quarterback. Who decides that it's a good time to put a guy in? I mean,
the head coach does. The head coach just makes that decision, and the head coach isn't ready to do that yet. I mean, he's made it clear that he doesn't think Pickett's ready, and he's the guy who's going to make that call. You are right in the sense that they are in transition. The question is, what are they transitioning into? I mean, the problem that they have is based out of all of their picks over the past 3 to 5 years. I mean, they were only able to win. Think about this. They were only able to win one playoff game with Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, and Ben Roethlisberger. Okay? Who seems to think that if Kenny Pickett gets in with George Pickens and Freiermuth, that's going to be any better, So the reality is they really need to think about more of a 3-year plan than a this year plan. And if that means putting in Pickett too soon and he's not ready, that doesn't make any sense at all. And I know everybody wants to put Pickett in there to think he can salvage the year. I actually think putting Pickett in this year is going to be a problem with his development down the line, because all he's going to be doing is running for his life and figuring out the offense against teams that he has no chance at beating. Let's face it, after the Jets, they're probably going to lose 4 of the next 5 games pretty easily. They play the Bills, they play Tampa Bay, they play Miami, and they play Philadelphia on the road. I mean, all 4 of those games look like disasters waiting to happen. Now, I don't think that would be the time to put in your rookie quarterback so that he gets swallowed up by them and absolutely learn nothing and potentially even get hurt. So I think he needs to learn the book a little bit more. And let's face it, he's a number 1 pick. Pickett is going to play at some point, whether it's this year or next year. Let's just be patient with his development, because until he gets better play calling in front of him, what's the point in putting him in there? It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay, so let me ask you this. I was, when you say until he gets better play calling in front of him, to me that sounds like code for Canada has to go, because to Mark's point earlier, the Aikmans of the world, they started 1-15. We had a ton of comments coming in here. I'm going to get to your comments in just a second, but at what point Pickett is a mature quarterback. He's not coming into the league as young as some of these other guys, and at what point do you put him in? I mean, are you expecting, let's say that they go out and draft an offensive lineman who's great at the end of this year. Let's say they play just for argument's sake, they play the whole year with Trubisky, they play the year out so Pickett can develop. How much of that development has to be in real time, playing real football? There's no development when you're taking snaps with the second team. You got to develop, and these guys are paid millions of dollars to run for their life every play. I mean, you watched Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady yesterday duke it out. They both were running for their lives most of the game. So, I'm not saying that that you put Pickett in right now. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is there's never a good time in mid-season. So you're either going to delay his development by a year, or you're going to say, look, we're going to keep Canada. Let's put Kenny in. Let's let him develop with this play calling, because he's got a fresh mind. He's a fresh mind. Trubisky is obviously not. So, what's the point? Let me get some comments in here, and then we can keep going on. The first comment I think is probably the most appropriate, and it's Todd talking about Eagles fans saying, no, they are still the worst. But I digress.
I like the fact that you're talking about my boys.
Tim says play calling is the problem. Rhonda says Canada's the problem. Tim, our defense has the most snaps in the NFL. Obviously, that's going to wear out any defense. Jeff, O-line and play calling are the problems. Daniel, Rupert, Pickett, period.
Wow,
Jeff,
Daniel.
you're absolutely correct. Rhonda, the Bears didn't want Mitch. Linda says it doesn't matter who's in because the QB don't call their own plays. Canada is the problem. Canada is no good. Changing QBs won't do any good, says Chris. Another, Canada is absolutely the problem. Bill, this is just me, but I think the Steelers will have a winning season and the division. But that is me. People may make fun of me, but you will see. Well, I'm not going to make fun of you. We'll let the peanut gallery make fun of you if they decide to, but let's be kind. DG is in the house. It's been said already, but it's time to realize that Canada is not the new innovative offensive mind we need. Let's face it, he needs to go. So I don't think getting rid of Canada solves the problem because now you got to bring in a new offensive guy and all that stuff. But I definitely don't think Canada is the way forward. Schwab, last thoughts on that?
Well, I think if the rest of the season doesn't go well, it will be the last year for Canada. I really doubt that Tomlin would switch coordinators mid-season. I mean, it would just have to be really bad for that to happen. But, I think the bottom line is I think Steve's point in terms of, like, let's not rush the progression is a good point. The only negative, the only downside to that approach is Kenny Pickett will be the guy. He will definitely be here. And the only reason why I might play him a little sooner is because you've seen situations before, like the Arizona Cardinals. I think they drafted this Josh Allen, who's no good, and then they let him play. They saw he was no good. And then the next year they took Kyler Murray. I'm not saying Kyler Murray's the best quarterback in the league, but you can take another quarterback. It's a really rich quarterback, and it might be worth it to see if Kenny Pickett can do something in 10 games as opposed to 6. Just a thought.
All right. So the mayor of Bloomfield is in the house. Rick DiCarlo says Canada wasn't good at Pitt. Narduzzi's criticism was correct. Bill's in the house. He's been a Steelers fan since 1968. Here we go, Bill. Thank you very much. Rhonda, I've been a Steelers fan for 40 years now. That's awesome.
Congratulations.
Yo, Carey, damn development. Play that man. It's not like he's never touched a football. You sit him a year, you'll not be able to take a real game hit. Don't bench him and cool him off. So obviously, a lot of opinions. It always hurts to lose to a rival. One last thing I was thinking of, all those years, and this is to Steve's point, they won one playoff game in basically the last 10 years, and they had all these guys that at the time were probably close to the best, if not the best at their position. They also played in a division where 2 of the teams were horrible all the time, Cincinnati and Cleveland. So there was 4 wins a year right there. And so did that kind of hide that? And we can debate that all day long. So, moving on here. I mean, we talked about the run game before the show, the defense, the season. I think we've kind of touched on everything there. I mean, obviously this is a year of transition. Do you have any final thoughts on this, Steve?
Yeah, my only thoughts are when they do finally make a change in the offensive coordinator position, and I think it'll happen in week 8. I'm going to go out. I think what's going to happen is they're going to promote Mike Sullivan. No, not the Pittsburgh Penguins coach, but Mike Sullivan, the quarterback coach. I think he's going to become the new offensive coordinator, and I think he is immediately going to put in Kenny Pickett. So I think that will help the team, and I think that's the only thing that can help the team right now. I think if they did that this week, they still would lose those 4 games against those 4 teams that I said, because they're just so much better than us, both offensively and defensively. Oh, and by the way, at the same time, they'll be getting TJ Watt back. So although we may be 2-6 going into that week 9 game, I think the second half will be much better. And that's what I think is going to happen. I'm just gonna stick my neck out there because I think Mark said, it's got to get that bad. I think it will get that bad when you lose 4 games in a row to even good teams. I think you're going to see a change because the fans won't put up with it. And if Tomlin has anything to say, by the way, I hate the idea that, Tomlin's never had a losing record is like in the mantra of the NFL and all of our psyches. To me, that means shit. And I don't care about it at all. I want to win playoff games. And I think the only way to find out is to let Pickett and a new offensive coordinator play for half the season and see if they can win 6 games. If they can win 6 games, then I think we got something to build on for next year. Unfortunately, that probably means we don't get that great of a draft pick. I'm hoping that I'm wrong and they let Trubisky play all year long and they go 3-11. I said 7-10, but actually I think they'll probably go 3-14 at this pace with the way this offense and this defense is playing, especially if TJ Watt doesn't come back. I mean, it will be that bad. If TJ Watt somehow suffers setback with his torn pec and you don't see him again, this is the defense you're stuck with the rest of the season. It's a horrible defense. It can't stop the run. It can't stop the pass. So I'm just, I don't mean to be a downer on this, but this is the reality that we're faced with. So until we really get a shot of something new and something different in there, expect the same.
Yeah. Well, and you're actually saying that it's possible that the Steelers would challenge for my preseason prediction that my Commanders would be the worst team in the league, which you guys were both like, no. And of course they played incredibly against the Eagles yesterday. So
they sure did with a once great quarterback back in 2017.
Hey, listen,
they outscored the Eagles in the second half. Just saying.
Yeah. Whatever. That's because the Eagles decided to stop scoring. That's what it was. Right. They thought we'll let them. They felt a little nostalgic for Carson, and they said, "Look, let's stop scoring." And even then, we could only manage a safety for a little while. That was it. So,
by the way, I've only been a Steelers fan for 52 years. So
yeah, so you have no idea what's going on. All right, so let's move on here. Before we, do you guys want to move on and acknowledge a couple things, like sticking on the Pittsburgh bandwagon here? We'll talk about the incredible 97 losses the Buccos have. Looks like they're going to lock in another 100-loss season here.
Too bad Richard isn't here for this.
What'd you say, buddy?
Too bad Richard isn't here for this. Richard always loves talking about the Pirates. I think he's mourning the fact that Judge got his 60th home run against the Pirates. I think maybe he's in hiding from that. I think it's good. I think as long as you're going to be bad, you might as well be really bad. And the Pirates are very good at being really bad.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Schwab has nothing to say on that. So I'll take that as he agrees. Roger Federer.
I'll skip Pirates talk.
Okay. Roger Federer says goodbye to tennis. I'm only getting this in because I could care less about tennis, and you guys wanted to bring it up, and then we can go back to maybe Aaron Judge, and then we'll get on to the NFL, which is what people really want to talk about. So goodbye, Roger Federer. I would be happy if we just said goodbye to tennis, to be honest with you, but hey, whatever.
Well, it just means you're a jerk.
Yeah, and on top of that, Roger Federer was one of the greatest tennis players that ever played the game. In an era where tennis has been the best tennis you've ever seen in the history of tennis. So
and
if you didn't go ahead, Mark.
I said, and on top of it, he's all class.
Well, now we know the real story.
Yeah. All right, moving on. So we will acknowledge that the Pens preseason, that NHL preseason has started. So obviously, as we get a little closer to the season, our hockey Jesus will have a lot more to say about that. And I think they won their first preseason game. Did they not?
Well, actually, it was so strange. Yesterday, they played a doubleheader, believe it or not. They played in Pittsburgh, and then they traveled to Columbus and played a night game in Columbus. And they lost the night game, but they won the day game. So,
okay.
I don't know why they did that, but that's what they did.
It's like half the guys aren't playing, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So, but what before you know it, hockey season. And Aaron Judge sitting on 61 home runs. Now, as you can see from my hat here, I'm celebrating the fact that Baltimore actually seems to have turned a corner, but I'm still not completely convinced of that. So I keep my sunglasses over that so it's not too obvious. So that answers the question as to why Chris is wearing sunglasses and a hat in the house, Schwab. So,
Okay.
However, we want to give congratulations to Aaron Judge because he might
become the all-time real home run king.
Yeah, no, he might set the American League record for home runs.
Well,
that's a huge debate.
Who has the record? Not that
Barry Bonds.
cheater. Not that cheater.
Barry Bonds.
Barry Bonds.
Well, he has the record for being the best cheater of home runs. Sure.
Barry Bonds. No, he has the record for being the best hitter ever. Period.
Best cheater.
Period. Watch the Bonds thing. He's 60.
When he was already a Hall of Famer and he was 30 years old, he was as skinny as a toothpick.
Here we go.
All that muscle. It's all fake.
Yeah. So easy. It's so easy. Okay. Well, I guess we should take Jeff Bagwell out of the Hall of Fame because he tested positive for steroids and he's in the Hall of Fame and he was nowhere near the hitter.
Bagwell.
And
what about Big Papi? What about Big Papi?
Yeah,
he's going in the Hall of Fame.
And they're going to put him in the Hall of Fame. Barry Bonds never tested positive. He never tested positive. So,
sure.
You can't call him a cheater if he never tested positive.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wait,
seriously.
Is there an asterisk by his name on the home run of all time?
There should be.
No. Is there one?
Well, I have a book, and it's got an asterisk next to it.
That was great.
Good for you, Squad.
Oh, that was awesome. Okay, let's
we'll
get
have
out
a
this
debate on
baseball
this
stuff.
on the porch during a real baseball season at some point. But no matter what, 61, 62, no matter what he ends up. Also, we got to do this. Albert Pujols. How about those old guys? Hey, Pujols over 700. Yo Carey, he admits he tested positive for sassafras.
Yes.
So okay.
I do too. I definitely test positive for sassafras. I'm in on that.
This show makes me test positive for anxiety sometimes. All right. What are we going to talk about now? Let's move on. Let's move on to the NFL. Let's go to I'm going to let you take it away, Steve.
Well, I think unfortunately we should probably talk about our picks from last week, which I'm not very excited to talk about, but I know that we need to do that. I wore the big horse collar last week. I went 0 for 3. Yes, I managed to pick 3 games completely wrong. And what can I say? I'm just terrible at this. And Chris clearly is the king of it.
Well,
I picked Miami over Buffalo.
Yeah, I was going to say I wouldn't crown myself the king because at this point right now, Mark and I are tied at 6-3, and Steve, you're a lowly 3-6. But it's a long season. It's a long season.
Seems like a lot of games to make up.
I know, but I guarantee you, there's an 0-3 week in my future.
Well, let's hope it's this week. So, yeah, I mean, actually, just a little inference on the NFL games because I watched a lot of football yesterday because the Steelers weren't playing. So I had Red Zone blazing, and I watched probably 6 or 7 hours of football. It was actually pretty bad football. I was surprised. Like, I thought the NFL was like getting to the point where, there's going to be a lot of scoring, a lot of offense. There was a lot of defensive battles, a lot of mistakes. Like even in that, like I watched mostly the Buffalo Miami game. how can a punter punt the ball off of his own guy's ass and punt it out of the end of the end zone with like 30 seconds left in the game? Like, how does that happen to a team that's 3-0? Like, and they still won the game. And they still won the game. Like, I would just, like, there were so many things like that I was watching, and I'm like, the NFL product really could use a little. It needs Patrick Mahomes back. It needs a gunslinger. It needs a guy who every week is out there just throwing the ball and scoring 5 touchdowns. And I mean, that's my maybe that's why I'm picking so badly, because I'm thinking of the old NFL where, you know, the Bills are dominant, Kansas City's dominant, but now it's like Jacksonville's pretty good, Miami's pretty good. Actually, Mark even said this at the beginning of the season. The Detroit Lions, although they lost, are a pretty damn good team. So there's some transition moving in the NFL, and that's fun to watch. But the overall product isn't very good right now.
It also might not be very good because of the lack of preseason. So it's almost like your preseason is like your first 3 games of the regular season. For some teams.
Maybe. That might be true.
I don't know. I think, I was in the airport yesterday for a while, and we were in Florida. So I was watching the Miami Bills game, parts of it anyway. And I'm in spite of that punt, I'm actually impressed by Miami. I think they've done a pretty good job of putting that team back together. Yeah. We'll see. The Bills, same thing. I mean, that to me, that game was a slugfest. This is an interesting thing to Steve's point, San Fran. I watched Garoppolo walk out of the end zone for a safety. That blew my mind. That blew my mind, because I don't think Mitch Trubisky would make that mistake. I don't think Carson Wentz would make that mistake. I don't think Gus Farad, who broke his own neck, would have made that mistake.
It's a lot easier said than done. I mean, when you got 350-pound men chasing you, it's a little hard sometimes to see where your feet are.
I guess, but it happens pretty rarely, So these guys are kind of used to these guys are kind of used to 350-pound men chasing them. So many jokes in that conversation right there too. But
remember, Garoppolo's just a backup quarterback. So I mean, you can't blame the backup quarterback.
True.
Yeah, right. He's just a backup. So what were our picks last week, Steve? Go down the road for us. Tell us what we won and lost, and then we'll go on to making our picks, and then we got some headlines and what we're watching. So
you're just doing this on purpose, so you can rub it in on me a little bit. But anyway, so there was the Buffalo Miami game. Mark was the only one that take Miami. There was the San Francisco Denver game. We all took San Francisco, and we all lost.
Boy, Russell Wilson looks pretty bad, doesn't he?
Oh my gosh! Did you hear how much they were booing him in Denver? I mean, they don't like him at all. He's just terrible.
Yeah.
So I agree with you.
A lot of those people in Denver are actually, I don't know if you know this, it's a fact, they're actually transplants from Philadelphia. They moved there from Philly. So they know how to boo. It's natural. It's natural. Good, bad, we won. You suck. I mean, that's the way they are. So anyway, okay. So we all lost. We all lost that one.
The last game was Green Bay, Tampa Bay. I trusted in Tom Brady, and of course, that asshole let me down. So there you go.
All right. So this week,
that was quite an ending to that game, by the way. I mean, he did get the touchdown. So they scored a touchdown late on a pretty nice pass by Brady, in fairness. And but they didn't get the 2-point conversion because they had a delay game penalty. Who has a delay game penalty on a 2-point conversion? Like ridiculous. So and they didn't get the 2-point conversion and they lost.
So this week this week, every week we pick 3 games. And this week we pick the Thursday night, the Sunday night, and then we pick a game on Sunday. Let's start though with our Steelers picks from beginning of the year. This is Jets at the Steelers this weekend. I picked the Steelers to lose, and it looks like I may be a genius once again. And I think you guys both picked the Steelers to win.
Yeah, we did.
So
we
yeah.
did. We'll stick with it.
Sticking with the Steelers
so we don't
this
count
week.
that in these records. Okay, so the Thursday night game, Miami at Cincinnati. Schwaber, what do you think?
Miami at Cincinnati.
Yeah.
I really love the way Miami's playing, but I think, Cincinnati probably dusted themselves off this past week against the Jets. I'm going to say playing at home. Let's give this one to Cincinnati in a very tight game. McPherson from 47 as time expires to win by 1.
All right, Schwaber's got Cincinnati. Steve.
Oh, this is such a tough game for me. I totally want to pick Miami, so I'm going to pick Miami. And I have no reason for it other than I said at the beginning of the season, I don't think Cincinnati's very good. This could be a dagger in their heart. If Miami goes 4-0 and Cincinnati goes 1-3, that could really hurt. But I watched both of those teams yesterday, and I don't think Miami is very good. But there's something about that Cincinnati offense. Their offensive line they're worse than the Steelers' offensive line. And every down, Joe Burrow is just running for his life. He can't do anything. He can't set up in the pocket. They can't run the ball. I'm taking the fish.
All righty. And Tim Pomato says take the fish. Brad Trombley's in the house. Thanks for being here, Brad.
Brad's on his way to Pittsburgh, by the way, to watch the Steelers live.
I know. I'm going with Miami because I think Cincinnati is having some problems. That's the best I can put it. It's a must win for Cincy. This early in the year to have a must win. I think Miami's definitely on the rise. I think Cincy outplayed themselves last year. It's starting to become evident to me. And yeah, that offensive line is horrible. So Steve and Chris got Miami. Mark thinks Cincy's going to pull out a win. Sunday night game, Chiefs at Bucks. This is a tough one. Schwaber, what do you think?
Well, first of all, there also may be no game due to a hurricane. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Oh, yeah, Chiefs at Bucks. Okay.
But assuming there is no
They'll play in
hurricane,
Miami. They'll play in Miami.
or they play somewhere else.
They'll play in Miami.
It's a really tough one. It's so hard. Do you really see Patrick Mahomes having 2 bad games in a row? If Brady gets a couple of his receivers back, is he in a much better spot?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take Tampa Bay in a close one. Little jump ball in the corner to Mike Evans. With a minute left in the game, Tampa Bay wins 28-24.
All right, Steve.
I think I'm going to go with Kansas City on this. And the reason I'm going to go with Kansas City is because Tampa Bay's offense can only score 1 touchdown a game. I don't know what is going on with their offense, but it's in deep trouble. And I know they get Mike Evans back. He didn't punch anybody this week, so he's going to get to play football. So that's good for them. Godwin, I don't think is probably going to play. I actually think, honestly, this sounds dumb, but I think Brady's marital problems are bleeding into his game. And I think he's just affecting him mentally. And
nothing could make you happier.
I mean, I'm not going to deny that statement, but I just think there's too much offensive firepower coming from the Chiefs. They only and they're right now not scoring 35 points. They're only scoring 21, 24 points. And by the way, they got to get a kicker. they don't have a kicker who can kick the damn ball because Butker got hurt in the first game of the season, and whoever they had kicking the ball the other day lost the game for them. So they got to find a kicker. If they had Boswell, I'd say they're probably Super Bowl contenders. But you know what? That's a good idea. We should trade Boswell for Patrick Mahomes.
That'll work.
That would be a great trade for us.
I'm sure they're on the phone right now. Yeah,
I think we should do that. I'm going with the Chiefs.
All right. You're going with the Chiefs, unless, of course, they trade Mahomes to the Steelers. All righty.
And I'm going with the Steelers. I'm going with the Steelers anyway.
All right. And this is really a tough call because the Chiefs, it's obvious that Mahomes without Hill has lost his premier weapon, even though Kelsey is still there. Bill drew a lot of attention. They can't run the ball. And, there is something going on in Tampa Bay, no doubt, whether it's marital issues with Tom Brady or whatever. This is really a tough game. But I'm going to go with the Bucs at home. I think Brady's going to pull it together on this. I went against Mark the last one, and we're tied for the lead right now. So I gotta flip the script a little bit. I'm playing some strategy. Okay, so Chiefs and Bucs. Steve has the Chiefs. Chris and Mark have the Bucs. The Sunday pick'em game we think is going to be a good one. It's the Bills at the Ravens. So, Schwaber, what do you think?
Well, again, it's one of these where, are the Bills going to have 2 bad weeks in a row? You'd think probably not, right? But then you also look at it and you say, well, but they're still going to find a way to lose 3 or 4 games, right? Maybe this is one of them. Maybe they go 2-2 and then they win 9 straight. So I'm going to say the heck with it. Ravens in a surprise, 35-17. What's wrong in Buffalo?
All right, Steve, what's wrong in Buffalo?
Well, they get to play I think they play the Steelers next, right? So I think that would be a good rebound game for Buffalo. But anyway, I digress. I think I like the Ravens. I think the Ravens are the best in our division, but I don't think that the Bills can lose 2 in a row on the road like that. They actually probably could have won that game. All they had to do was have 2 more seconds left. They spiked the ball. Their field goal kicker is going to make that 43-yard field goal every time. I don't think they'll let that happen again. I think their defense is good enough to stop Lamar Jackson. I know that's a big task. He is definitely the best quarterback in the NFL now. I don't care what you guys say. The guy can throw it. He can run it. He's a dual threat every play. But they'll find a way to stop. They'll find a way to stop him enough. I like the Bills on the road.
Steve likes the Bills on the road. This is actually this year so far. This is, I think, the toughest game to pick. Because you have potentially, the AFC Championship game here, if you think about it.
Yeah, possibly.
And I would lean on the Bills if they weren't on the road. I get it, losing 2 on the road. I would normally pick the Bills. I'll tell you what, this is a complete toss-up for me. A complete toss-up. What'd you say?
Flip a coin. Tails never fails.
Yeah, that's the first time I've ever heard that.
Oh, really?
You know what?
Yeah, it's true.
I still have faith in Josh Allen, though. I'm going to go with the Bills on the road as well. I just think that I think their defense is good enough to stop Lamar Jackson on the road. I agree with you, Steve.
Yeah, so.
Bills at Ravens. Mark has the Ravens. Chris and Steve have the Bills. I'm definitely going to watch that game. I'm not going to watch the Commanders. I'll tell you that much. All right. Moving on. Let's move on to something we love to do here. It's called Headlines That Mean Something. And what do? Well, we scour the internet for headlines that we think should mean something. Maybe they mean something to you. Maybe they don't. They usually mean something to us, and it's usually something funny. So I'm going to defer to Mark on this one. Mark, we'll start with your headline. I'm going to put it up there. Read away.
Please don't cook chicken in NyQuil, the FDA asks TikTok users. So, if you're unaware, something on TikTok has run rampant. It's called #SleepyChicken. And basically what this means is you just bathe that bird in some NyQuil and, boiling it, you're going to fume some, you're going to inhale some fumes and, all kinds of crazy stuff's going to happen. FDA says it's bad for you. Don't do it.
Who'd have figured? What would happen if you cooked your turkey in NyQuil? Because, turkey's got that tryptophan in it. I mean, is that kind of like...
Yeah, I don't know. The FDA says even if you don't eat the chicken, inhaling the medication's vapors while cooking could cause high levels of the drugs to enter your body, and it could hurt your lungs.
And do you need to cook chicken to activate the NyQuil?
Well,
I mean, or can you just boil the NyQuil?
#SleepyChicken. Look it up.
I don't.
Thank you, TikTok.
Cook your chicken in NyQuil. The FDA asked TikTok users. I think this is more an indictment of people that watch TikTok. To be honest with you.
Well, I think it's just a bunch of kids who want to get high, and they're like, "Hey, let's try this."
I don't think. Yeah,
I'm sure they did this when we went to school, but we just didn't have TikTok.
Yeah,
right.
We would only lick frogs.
Yeah, I would have, or smoke banana peel. Right, right. And Doritos.
That's not true, as far as you know.
Yeah, well, we figured it out, I think. All right, next headline up here is Steve's headline. Steve?
Woman who brought raccoon to North Dakota bar is charged. So I guess this with bringing an illegal pet to a bar. What else?
But it was bring your pet to drink day.
I guess this happened in Maddox, North Dakota. It's about 500, a town of about 500 people. It's about 55 miles from the border of with our northerly neighbors in Canada there. And I guess she saw this raccoon on the side of the road and made it her pet. The only problem is you're not allowed to do that in North Dakota. And the authorities were afraid that it had rabies, so they killed it. They tested it, and it didn't have rabies, as it turns out. And they still asked people to get tested, if they were around it, because the saliva, could have contained rabies. And the woman is fighting the charges because she said it was all just a hoax to put her in jail and give her a $7,500 fine. I'm going to side with the woman in this one, I think. I mean, it's just right. How many people pick up, cats by the side of the road and make them their pets? What's the difference between a cat and a raccoon?
Yeah, but how many of those people bring them to the bar to have a drink with them?
Well, it only takes one to make a headline, Chris.
I mean, yeah. And before I say anything else, that could have been me back in the day. So we'll just move on from that. My headline is one that grabbed me the day that I had, I thought maybe I shouldn't put this up. But it in the spirit of headlines, it means something. I absolutely had to. Man pleads guilty after murdering, eating the testicles of another man he met on a dating app. And all I could think about was, this is not Open Table. Use Open Table, not a dating app. Okay? Seriously. And
I guess you would have to plead guilty to that, right? There's no way getting around that.
I have no
It wasn't
idea,
me,
but
it was somebody else that ate those testicles.
I don't know. I'll leave the names out because it's a brand new article. But this guy, 53, admitted in court last Thursday that he killed a 25-year-old hairdresser. And you cannot make this up. This is the first time that I've read this article, okay? Because the headline to me was the best part. This guy killed 25-year-old hairdresser Kevin Bacon. That was this guy's name.
This is made up. This is a made up article. This is
made up. It's on Fox News. Of course it's made up. But he killed 25-year-old hairdresser Kevin Bacon after luring the University of Michigan Flint student to his home in December of 2019. He pled guilty to mutilation of a body and to open murder. He stabbed Bacon in the back.
A little back bacon there.
Well, you already know. You're not, baby back, whatever. He stabbed Bacon in the back, taking parts of his dead body to the kitchen where he ate them after meeting the young man on Grindr. He also reportedly admitted, this goes right to the article, to police that he cut off Bacon's testicles and consumed them. I got to tell you, first of all, like I said, if you're hungry, use Open Table. All right. I have like thousands of points. It's a great app. You get right into your favorite restaurants and you can eat anything you want. And you don't have to go to Grindr to find your next meal.
Yeah, get off of Grindr if you're on it.
Oh my goodness. That was a good one.
All right. Yeah. Headlines that mean something. Okay, so next up here, what we're watching, and let me take down the great advice that I gave everybody. What we're watching, obviously, we scour the internet for headlines, and we also like to talk about things that we find entertaining on streaming services. And I'm going to start with Mark again and what he's watching right now. And actually, Mark, I watched a couple episodes of the first season of this.
Mm-hmm. Lincoln Lawyer. So here's my thought on the Lincoln Lawyer. I've only watched 3 episodes. There's one season. It has been renewed for a second season. To me, it's almost kind of like a mashup of like Goliath meets Bosch a little bit, but not as good as either.
Right.
So, but the thing is that I think that it's got potential. So I'm going to continue watching it. So I'm not 100% sure on this one, but I think it's got potential, and I'm going to see kind of where it leads. And I'll let you know. I'll update you.
All right. Mark is watching The Lincoln Lawyer. Steve picked up something he said over the weekend. So I didn't even know this existed. So I'm probably going to watch it or pick it up myself.
Yeah, The Doors, When You're Strange. It's a doc. They call them docu-series now, and I don't understand why. It was just 1 hour and 20-minute thing about the Doors. I always liked the Doors music, but I never really knew how the band formed or what happened to their demise. Clearly, it was the demise of Jim Morrison that was the end of the Doors, but they're really interesting how they formed. Ray Manzarek is literally he's the keyboarder. He's the guy who basically put the band together. Him and Jim Morrison got together and they found a couple guys that they liked. They learned that actually the one guy was a classical guitarist, and when he played guitar, he never used a pick. Never in all of the Doors songs, he never played a pick. And on top of that, the Doors never had a bassist guitarist in their band. Ray Manzarek did the bass on the keyboard. So wild. Like, I didn't know that about them. But clearly, I mean, Jim Morrison was more interested in his poetry than he was in performing on stage. He was actually never formally trained vocally. Whatever his voice was, it was. I mean, he never had any music lessons. He couldn't read music. He actually didn't even write most of the songs. The the guitarist wrote most of the songs, but if you look on the album, they're all attributed to the Doors in general because they kind of collaborated on a lot of things. So it was pretty interesting. Like, I thought I knew more about the Doors than I did, but that definitely brought it home for me. Worth it if you like the Doors or you like music from that era.
Where is it streaming?
That I believe that was on Apple TV.
Okay. And DG has a question. The Lincoln Lawyer, is that a series based on McConaughey's movie?
It is.
Yeah,
It's
I think it is.
Different guy for TV.
Yeah, it's just a different guy.
And it's on
Netflix. Schwaber froze up on that one, but it's on Netflix. All right. What's next? I have already completed this. It is also a docu-series. It is called, Sins of Our Mother. Sins of Our Mother. Now, before you go crazy.
Don't upset Janice now.
Yeah. Is your mom online?
Oh, gosh.
I see why. She's not online tonight. Go ahead, Chris. Spill your
guts. You guys. Let me get that picture off of there. Okay, so Sins of Our Mother. It's about, you guys have heard of Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell. And she this woman and Chad Daybell apparently killed her 2 children. He ran a doomsday cult.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a 3-part docu-series. She actually had a son to a previous marriage. And it's basically, he kind of narrates it. And he knew the 2 children, the JJ, who they adopted. And her name's like Tiana or something. I can't remember. Kind of a strange name, but he knew them and kind of grew up with them. And so they kind of go through the transition of her, a couple failed marriages and then moving on and then literally going crazy and joining this like doomsday cult. And to this day, I don't think she realizes what she did was wrong. I think she's so far gone that, she doesn't even care to think about the fact that, maybe this whole doomsday idea that you got yourself involved in might not be true, So anyway, it's really good. It's three episodes. I think each episode's about an hour long, but it really kind of dives into, and it's been on every crime show on television. It's been on 48 Hours, Dateline, all of them. But, these docuseries, they kind of go a little bit deeper. So if you've been following the story, there's plenty that you don't know. These other series, they just kind of touch on the surface. This goes pretty deep. So, and it's on Netflix. So there you go, guys.
Sounds like a real uplifter.
I think that it is. It is. As a matter of fact, I'm going to watch it Christmas Eve with my kids. Looks like Schwaber's having internet problems again. But yeah,
he looks so all frozen up.
Yeah, look at that one. All right, there it is.
Good thing we're done. Good thing we're done.
Yeah, it is a good thing we're done. All right, guys, listen, we want to thank you for listening to us on American Busker iHeartRadio as always. And check out our website down below. It's real easy to remember, theporcheslive.com. Steve has a post up there on his take on the Steelers season. Actually got a ton of traction over the weekend. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but a ton of people read that post. So check it out at theporcheslive.com. And unless you guys have something else you'd like to bring to the forefront, I think we're going to sign off, and we'll catch you all next week.
See ya.
All right, guys, we're out.
Man.